Welcome to Press Coverage. I'm Theo Gremminger, and on Press Coverage, I'm trying to bring in the guests that can give you an edge in your fantasy league and help you win. We're looking to bring in the sharpest guests possible, and this time of year, it's NFL Draft just happened, and now we're sort of in Dynasty Rookie Draft week. And for some of you, you're in best ball season, and I think it all sort of correlates because we're going to talk about the best value rookies, some of the best possible landing spots, some of the guys who landed well, some of the guys who landed not so well. And I'm happy to be joined by Cody Carpentier. Cody came on a few weeks back on Press Coverage. We crushed it. So we had to come bring it back. We had to run it back with a sequel of sorts. And what a better time to talk to Cody than the NFL Draft. Cody was literally 1 week ago. We're recording this on Thursday morning. Not sure when it's going to air on YouTube, but basically we've 1 week, and it seems like so much data to take in. How has your week been? How is your process going?
Week's been good, fast. It's already Thursday, like you said. I just want to say thank you for having me back on because, like you said, man, we did V1, and I'm sorry to every other guest you've had, but we just happen to be the best, and we're coming back for V2, and we're gonna double that. So I'm looking forward to crushing the show and talking about all these rookies because we got a lot of landing spots that are interesting. A lot of the running backs in this class, because of where they went and because of the depth and the strength of this class, there's going to be only a few hidden gems, and we have to pinpoint them if we're going to get any value sucked out for seasonal, for dynasty, for best ball, all of it. This is going to be the toughest year at running back. It seems on the surface like there's some nice spots. Not so fast, my friend.
Yeah, definitely an interesting year when it comes to a value in this rookie class. I will say for me, when I'm like going through my rankings, I kind of like the third round guys a little bit more than I usually do.
Yep.
You can paint yourself a picture on a lot of these guys. So it's really interesting. And also it's sort of like when you start ranking for like super flex, you get to a certain point in the second round and then it starts getting kind of flat. And now depending on your scoring settings, maybe it's big tight end premium, maybe that gets easier for you. Maybe you're in a league where you have to start like, four wide receivers or something, and you can always adjust. But at the end of the day, I don't know how much difference there is between like the mid third and the mid second right now in some of these rankings. So I think that could be an advantage for the sharp dynasty manager. And also I think for you early best ball drafters, there's a couple of these guys you want to start taking shots on that I think have passed this year to kind of really help out your best ball build. So let's get it going. What was your favorite landing spot of any player? This could have been a player you were on before the draft, or it could be a guy that you weren't on, but you are now on because, hey, this makes sense now.
The favorite landing spot is the one that everybody wanted, everyone perceived coming in. I think there's two here. I'm not going to talk about the quarterback one. The quarterback one was J.J. McCarthy to Minnesota and Bo Nix to Denver. Those were two of the optimal spots for the quarterbacks to go, those two quarterbacks specifically. But the one I want to talk about is Xavier Worthy. That's my favorite landing spot. That has to be everybody's favorite landing spot because he's not Tyreek Hill, but he brings a dynamism that is different to the NFL that Tyreek Hill did bring. Tyreek Hill has an elasticity. Tyreek Hill has rubber ligaments, and that's what makes his change of direction so high-end, his speed and his burst and his acceleration so high-end. What Xavier Worthy can bring to you is he was a five-star receiver. He was a super talented receiver, went for almost 1,000 yards as a freshman, true freshman at Texas. And attaching him to Patrick Mahomes when they just went out and signed Hollywood Brown, who ran a 4.27 himself at the NFL Combine, is an older version of Xavier Worthy, but a worse version. Xavier Worthy is more complete of a route runner. He's not on the Tank Dell level, but he's going to bring everything that Baltimore wanted out of Hollywood Brown back in round one, however many years ago that was. So I think what it does to this Kansas City offense is the best way to explain it. 5 years ago, when it was Kelsey and it was Tyreek and it was Mahomes, and they were peak apex of chief domination with those three guys in the offense. And Tyreek Hill leaves and Travis Kelsey starts to age. Brett Veach did a masterful job rebuilding this team from a defensive standpoint every single year in the early rounds, pinpointing guys. The last couple of years, George Karlaftis, Felix Udike-Uzomah, Nick Bolton, L'Jarius Sneed, you can continue and just go and go and go, rebuilding the defense so that it was a defensive disappointed team, but still with the best quarterback in football. Remember when the Patriots did this in the early 2000s and they won their three-peat right there. That's exactly what the Chiefs have done here. They've built this defense up to a point where that's the strength point of the team, while also hitting on Isaiah Pacheco and having a run-centric offense, which has allowed them to get through the season last year. Now what you're facing is you have the defense, you have the running game. Travis Kelce's still there and still going to garner that respect, despite having stepped probably 2 steps back from the top end talent he was. And now you bring back the speed element with real talents in Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown. I believe what Xavier Worthy can bring to this offense is rookie of the year-esque output if he can stay healthy for the longevity of the season. That's the only question I have for Xavier Worthy. So when I'm having these conversations with Alex, and we both work for Orange Bloods at Texas, and we both have seen Xavier Worthy extensively, the worry for me is literally just that he stays healthy all season, because we saw him get nicked up during games, miss a drive, miss 2 drives, miss 3 drives, and stuff like that. If he can stay healthy all season with Hollywood, with this defense, with this running back team, with the quarterback they have, there's no better landing spot in the draft than for Xavier Worthy to come in here and bring an element that they haven't had since Tyreek Hill was there.
Yeah, and Xavier Worthy, I love that answer. Xavier Worthy is my 105 in single QB rankings, my 109 in Superflex. It's sort of if you're playing to win in fantasy, you want exposure to Xavier Worthy. Certainly that nothing is guaranteed, but all the things that Cody talked about. Also, I'll add that this is the first wide receiver that they've selected in the first round since 2011. So the Chiefs are like in on this player, to say the least. And I'll say that it's funny when we look back a year ago, Cody, and we look at that Detroit loss to start the season, where it was like a 21-20 sort of ugly game, a David Montgomery game, if a lot of you remember that, was their starting wide receivers that game were MVS and Justin Watson. Now they go with Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown, and if he's not suspended, Rashee Rice with those 2 guys in 3 wide sets. Chiefs passing game is going to be awesome. Mahomes is actually a winner from this draft. He was quarterback 10 in points per game last year, a challenger for QB1 overall this year, as he should be every year with these kind of weapons. I'll say my favorite landing spot, I'll take another kind of low-hanging fruit rookie. Couple guys I could talk about, but how could you not love the landing spot for Ladd McConkey? Sort of an elite separator, now gets attached to a quarterback who can get him the ball, and Justin Herbert. And you talk about a complete lack of competition. Josh Palmer, Quentin Johnston, and then you get to the the running back room, and you have no pass catcher out of that backfield. They lose Austin Eckler. Now you have Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins. Dobbins catch the ball a little bit, but that's sort of a projection. And then you have nothing at the tight end spot, like literally nothing. It could be Hayden Hurst leading the tight end room in receptions this year. Will Disley. I mean, nothing there. So Ladd McConkey, I think, is, even if it's a low volume passing attack and it's Greg Roman special, where it's a running back by committee and they really, really pound it inside, I still think Ladd McConkey is going to roll out of bed and get 140 targets. So it's about as good of a landing spot. 140, 135. I think Ladd McConkey, like, again, I don't think he's got the ceiling of a Xavier Worthy, like, over the next few years, but as a floor pick, as a safe pick, Ladd McConkey attached to Justin Herbert, it's just a match made in heaven. I think the guy's going to catch a lot of passes, and I think that, this passing game is a little bit better than it was heading into the NFL draft, to say the least. Get Joe Alt, and then you get Ladd McConkey. Not too bad. Let's pivot over, though, Cody. Let's go with the veteran winner. Who's a veteran that walked out of this draft with a better outlook on the season? We already talked about Patrick Mahomes, but let's go with somebody maybe a little less high profile than the greatest quarterback of all time.
Veteran winner for me. This one feels easy. This is not going to be a fantasy friendly reasoning, but Pittsburgh Steelers, I got to go to Najee Harris. Najee Harris in the Pittsburgh Steelers, a guy that has seemingly how do I explain this? His expectation of output the last couple of years is that he sucks, and he's hit the 1,000-yard marker each of the last 3 years. And his yards per carry hasn't been great, but it did go up last year. He had 8 touchdowns, 29 receptions, which is down from 74 3 years ago. Average 4.1 yards per carry this past year. And he gets the offensive line upgrade of the century, the best in the class, top to bottom, where they got a value in Zach Frazier, the center, in round 2, and they got a interchangeable offensive lineman in Troy Fautanu in round 1. Left guard, left tackle doesn't matter. Broderick Jones can slide to the opposite. If Fautanu plays left tackle, Broderick plays right. If Fautanu plays left guard, you put Broderick at left tackle, and all of a sudden you just got a shored up center, guard, tackle in this offense. And I think this is exactly what they were going for. They also got Mason McCormick later in the draft. This is going to enable this team to be fully unleashed. The defense is the defense. It's Pittsburgh. It's not quite the steel curtain, but the offense, they've completely revamped and completely rebuilt this thing to, if this offensive line can mesh, I'm gonna say this is going to be the camp that I look forward to most going to in August is Pittsburgh's camp up in Latrobe, because I want to see, first off, what Russ looks like. Secondly, I want to see what this offensive line meshes like. And then thirdly, I want to see what the defense looks like. And I think those first 2 things that I brought up are going to contribute to Najee Harris being the winner. Najee Harris behind this offensive line. This is the fantasy people everywhere. The reporters, when you're up at camp, they all love Jalen Warren. But the fact of the matter is, Theo, there's one man that loves Jalen Warren.
I love Jalen Warren.
I know I said fantasy people everywhere, but I said there's only one person that loves Najee Harris, and there's only one person that matters that loves Najee Harris, and his name starts with an M, and the last name ends with an N. Mike Tomlin. That's the guy. That's the only one that matters. He likes Najee Harris, and he has Najee Harris on the roster. Arthur Smith is going to use him like Derek goddamn Henry, and Najee Harris is going to run that rock into the ground. And with this offensive line, he's going to go from averaging 3.8, 3.9, 4.1 to maybe 4.9. And if we can get that out of Najee Harris on 250, 270, 300 carries, and maybe throw another 40 receptions in there, that's going to be a disgusting value in 2024.
Yeah, it's interesting because I had Sigmund Bloom last time on press coverage before the NFL draft, and he's a big Pittsburgh guy, and I think he reads that team well. He actually was talking up Jalen Warren and Najee Harris this year as guys that could both produce both as RB2s, because Warren's going to catch a lot of balls. Certainly Roman Wilson's a guy that we expect to get some work, and we're going to talk about him a little later on the show. But Jalen Warren and Najee Harris could both produce well. You got to love that offensive line. And I could go in a number of directions with my answer here, but I think I like Terry McLaurin a little bit more than when we walked into the NFL draft. And certainly we expected them to draft a quarterback, and they did with Jaden Daniels. So this could be a quarterback boost. You sort of see the mobility of Daniels maybe open some things up for a player like McLaurin who can get downfield. McLaurin sort of had these 3 1,000-yard seasons with 75 plus receptions, but he's never had that huge season. And I think this could be the year. We saw what happened with DJ Moore last year when he had a quarterback upgrade. Now we're going to see Jaden Daniels, a young quarterback, often will target in on his alpha. I don't think Jaden Daniels is going to have tunnel vision, but I think we could see a little bit of a boost there. And then we also have the fact that Washington leaned into getting weapons for Daniels, but they sort of brought in players that are going to not have any effect on what McLaurin can do, like Benson, Luke McCaffrey. I think those guys are going to play a ton, but I don't think either one of them is a threat to be like the alpha. Washington in the second round had access to a bunch of wide receivers that would have been guys that you said, okay, that's not necessarily good for Terry McLaurin. They chose to go in another direction. So I really like McLaurin. He was a winner for me. I wrote my Dynasty Winners article on playerprofiler.com. Should drop any day now. And McLaurin was definitely one of the wide receiver winners. So that was an interesting one. Back to you, a veteran that sort of lost value from this NFL draft.
Javonte Williams. And I tweeted this one out last night. People were like, why? What happened to Javonte Williams? What happened? And I just started tweeting back at him, videos and pictures of Audric Estime. And Audric Estime was a 5th round running back this year. And the athletic profile isn't there for Audric Estime. That's fine. But this is the one time of year, and Alex always says this is the one time of year where the NFL teams cannot lie to you, and they have to tell you exactly what they're thinking. And a year ago, they used Jaleel McLaughlin in this offense while having Javonte Williams getting healthy and coming off the ACL. And Javonte played in 16 games and averaged 3.6 yards per carry post ACL, which is almost a full yard lower than what it was before that. And Javonte Williams' contract is up at the end of the 2024 season. He's 24 years old right now. He's going to be 25 a year from now. They're not re-signing Javonte Williams. And yes, they could go out and draft another running back in the second round next year, the first round. It's a good running back class. But if the opportunity is there for Audric Estime at 20 years old, he can catch passes out of the backfield, and he does have burst. I think that there's a very straight avenue, a very straight shot for Audric Estime to take this role completely at the end of the season or near the end of the season, if Javonte wears it all, and take his 225-pound self and be the potential lead back for a couple of years, allowing you to have value here. So Javonte Williams, to me, is the loser. He's 24 going, and then he's going to be 25 a year from now. He's got a big running back on his heels. Jaleel McLaughlin's already there. I've gotten comments from Blake Watson. You don't know who Blake Watson is. He's also going to be. I'm like, yes, I've known Blake Watson. I went to the goddamn Shrine Bowl. Relax, people in the comments. And there's a bunch of guys there. And we know Sean Payton wants his guy. He didn't sign Javonte Williams. He didn't draft Javonte Williams. He's just completely rebuilding this entire offense. And this offense might not be great, but Javonte Williams is the biggest loser for me in fantasy football.
Yeah, I like that one a lot. I'll take a little bit of a guy that I'm still drafting. I drafted him in an underdog yesterday, but I think we've seen the best season out of DJ Moore. And despite the quarterback improvement, the fact that they put Rome Odunze into this offense, another sort of explosive, athletic wide receiver, he's got the size, he's got the alpha tendencies. This is not some guy who's going to be a Jackson Smith and Jigba and sort of a second fiddle. I think that this could be a little bit more uncomfortable for DJ Moore managers than they'd like to believe. Keenan Allen with DJ Moore with a quarterback upgrade, that was something where I felt fine about. They could coexist. But now you have last year's wide receiver 6, DJ Moore, playing next to last year's wide receiver 8 in Keenan Allen, and now the number 9 overall pick in Rome Odunze. This is just screams to me, DJ Moore is probably going to finish a little bit closer to like wide receiver 14, 15 than that, high-end wide receiver 1. It's just the target competition. I think it's going to be a little bit more balanced. And I believe Caleb Williams is an extremely talented quarterback. And I think it could be the spike weeks could vary week to week based on the matchups that Caleb Williams is able to read in this offense. So I think DJ Moore is a low-key loser. Still draft him in your best ball drafts, but I think when it comes down to it, Rome Odunze is really, really good. And I think that, the second half of the year, that's a player that, could potentially challenge DJ Moore on a weekly basis once we get to like weeks 8, 9, 10. See it every year where these rookie wide receivers take those huge steps forward as they get a little bit more acclimated to the NFL. Rome Odunze is a baller. So that one, I got my eye on that one. Cody, your thoughts on Odunze's effect on DJ Moore? Because I think that's going to be something that a lot of people have a little bit of a pushback on.
I think Nate brought it up on Twitter. Nate Liss hasn't tweeted in goddamn feels like 6 months, and he tweeted out on Saturday or Sunday, or maybe it was Monday, about people jumping right to the conclusion of Rome Odunze being a top 10 dynasty asset. And I will admit I had him as a top 10. I think I had him exactly number 10 in dynasty pre-NFL draft. And I've since moved him down to receiver 18, because of this exact situation. We're looking in the eyes of almost exactly what happened last year with JSN. And they're close for me as far as talent goes, JSN and Odunze. I think I might lean Odunze by a notch. And he gets the fresh quarterback with Caleb, so he has equal ability to build a rapport with Caleb as anybody else in this offense, which is different than what JSN was dealt with last year with DK and with Lockett. And Keenan Allen is on a 1-year deal. So there's no incentive, again, other than him being a savant of a route runner and a pro's pro. There's no reason or there's no incentive for Caleb to grow that relationship any more than he grows the Rome and the DJ relationship, because he knows those two are going to be there for the next 5 years. I don't think it hurts DJ long-term as much as it hurts him this year, because of the influence of Keenan Allen. I think those three are the guys that get peppered. They're going to be on the field together, and it's only going to allow each of them to be successful. Yes, it's going to pull back on the overall target shares for each of them, but the efficiency should stay. We might go from, I don't even know if what I can say DJ's yards per route runner are, because I know it's let me pull it up here really quickly as I'm speaking. Totally unprepared on that note that I wanted to bring up. That's my bad on that. So he averaged last year 14.2 yards per reception, but back in 2020, he averaged 18 yards per reception. So, for example, I think that the influence of Keenan Allen, the influence of Rome Odunze could allow DJ Moore's efficiency to rise back up into that range and to be more of a deep threat guy and to catch more touchdowns for a guy that we've literally never seen catch double-digit touchdowns. And Rome Odunze, the same thing. He's a guy that can catch downfield. Keenan Allen's a guy that may be the one that works across the middle. He's entering his Adam Thielen kind of section of life. Is his late career Larry Fitzgerald, where he doesn't have to be the alpha. So I think what becomes is DJ still your alpha. I think Rome ends up being your Z and Keenan is in the slot. And I just think the efficiency is going to grow for DJ Moore.
Okay, and here's another scenario: is maybe Rome Odunze is the red zone guy on this team, because this is a guy a proper alpha. Think about the way Davante Adams wins near the goal line. You can do a lot of those things with Rome Odunze. So it's a very interesting one. And shout out to Nate Liss. Love to have you on press coverage. Love to have you on Dynasty Life. Hey, I can even guarantee you this, Nate, if you want to roll through, me, you, and Cody could crush it with a press coverage. Let's take a quick ad, and when we come back, we're going to do rookie debates, and we're going to tell you some must-draft rookies for your weekend drafts.
This episode brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy has been sponsoring Player Profiler and everything we're doing here since 2020. Sign up. Use promo code UNDERWORLD for a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. 100% instant deposit match up to $100. And you're like, oh, well, everyone's on Underdog. Not true. There's plenty of people in this audience that have not yet tried out Underdog, and it's time. They're adding more sports. They're adding more contests. Like when we're heading into NFL draft season, there's the rookies and sophomores game. When you think about way too early fantasy football, that's what Underdog is. When you think about best ball, that's what Underdog is. And if you can pick players at the end of an Underdog Fantasy best ball draft that are under rostered, that few people are picking at all, and that guy, like Kyren Williams, hits, you will likely experience positive returns. All you need is that one guy at the end who no one else is rostering, and the way to find that guy is to listen to us. UnderdogFantasy.com. The promo code is Underworld. 100% deposit match up to $100 with promo code Underworld. Underdog makes everything we do possible.
Welcome back to press coverage. Theo Gremminger with Cody Carpentier, and Cody. Let's we're gonna do a little bit of rookie debates here, but before we do like kind of the head-to-head debates, let's make a little bit of sense of Bo Nix and Michael Penix. I'm going to ask you a two-layered question here. Which of these two quarterbacks has the better NFL career? And then is there a chance that we see Michael Penix on the field this year, like earlier than some think? Because I think we will see Bo Nix, but like saying who has the better 2024, it's going to be Bo Nix because he has more starts. But could Michael Penix have more impactful starts if he does have the chance to have that foot in the door?
This is a very sticky question to ask because you can be wrong both sides because there's not enough information for us at the current stage, given the Kirk Cousins Achilles injury and what he's recovering from. And that was one of the first thoughts I had when I jumped on the radio right after the show, right after the draft got over. I jumped on there, asked me about it, and I was like, there's only one way I could make sense of this, and this is that Kirk he's obviously only a few months post-op, maybe 5 months. So he's not anywhere near being able to run on the field and stuff like that. And the only sense this makes, this Penix thing, is that they have a rug that they can pull from this Kirk Cousins contract if he cannot pass a physical at some stage and he can get out of this guaranteed money. That's the only way this Penix thing makes any sense. And with that, if hypothetically Kirk Cousins isn't ready by late July, early August. There's no rapport built there, and Penix has the upper hand with this receiving core. It would make sense to see Penix play, obviously in the preseason, but then potentially week 1, 2, 3, 4 until Cousins is healthy. Now, the danger you're playing with that, allowing Penix to go out there in week 1, 2, 3, 4, is that, motherfucker, we could see boom time. We could see him go from the jump. And that's why I think it's a sticky question to ask, because that is the biggest question mark as to what opportunity Penix gets. If he hypothetically gets week 1, 2, 3, 4, we could see it go and not stop. We could see the 85th percentile of CJ Stroud last year out of Penix in Hotlanta. But if Cousins plays, I think Penix's career is in jeopardy as far as being a starting quarterback in the NFL, because Atlanta is an inept franchise. And if Kirk is the quarterback for 3 years, you can't do a damn thing about it. Nix, on the other hand, is the best bet. He's the best bet with Sean Payton, with his college receiver and Troy Franklin. They're starting to build this team back up how Sean Payton wants it. It's probably a year, maybe 2 years away from really hitting its stride. But to lead with Bo Nix and to go forward with Bo Nix, and he's going to get the reins, there's going to be no question, I believe, once we hit probably late July, who the starting quarterback is. Your money has to be on Nix. Penix is the better prospect, but your money has to be on Nix to have the better career.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. And I liked Michael Penix a little bit more throughout the process as a prospect, but now you have a head coach whose job is sort of tethered to this player. And I think you're going to see, the entire Denver offense kind of built around amplifying the things that Bo Nix can do well. And I think Bo Nix, people criticize the accuracy and they say it's kind of fake accuracy numbers because of the manufactured offense that Oregon runs. But I think that Nix is very capable of running a low ADOT, very efficient attack that, Sean Payton's been sort of synonymous with Drew Brees. Now, he's certainly not Drew Brees, but I think we'll see some of those things. And then you also have the fact that Bo Nix has a little bit of mobility. I think on this team, he's going to get an opportunity to kind of show that. So I agree with you. It's definitely an interesting one. These two guys are sort of sitting there for dynasty managers in superflex leagues towards the end of the first round, sometimes the early second. And then in terms of best ball, like Bo Nix could end up being actually an interesting best ball pick because he's sitting there so late. And again, I think you're going to get a little bit more with his legs than I think some people are projecting. Let's keep this going. I want to queue up one thing because we're going to do a head-to-head debate. So it's time to drop it. Cody Carpentier is now on the on the stand, and you're basically having to testify on JJ McCarthy versus Drake May. So we're going to go ahead with a couple of these debates. We're going to start out with the quarterback one. Cody, you share the player you prefer, and let's go 2024 season and career in how you expect them to finish.
2024 season, I'll take. Wait, did you say who you want to go?
Drake May versus JJ McCarthy, because right now this is the decision at the 105 for a lot of Superflex dynasty managers, and also this is a best ball question too for a lot of people, because a lot of people are building Minnesota stacks, but Drake May is going ahead of him in best ball because Drake May is potentially projected to be able to do a little bit more, especially with his legs.
Yeah, give me JJ McCarthy, both in 2024 and the Dynasty. McCarthy hit the nuts landing spot. This is exactly, Minnesota wanted Drake May. They tried to get up for Drake May, and really what it did is justified New England saying, we can't move back. We got teams trying to come up to get this guy. We're going to look like clowns. They take him, but the problem is this New England team is not built to take on a quarterback right now. They're a year away from taking on a quarterback. The problem is next year's draft class, not the quarterback class to be waiting on. So New England's kind of in a limbo spot where they had to take the quarterback. And May's great, but May needs some work. May needed to be attached to Kevin O'Connell. May needed to be attached to Josh McCown and to sit with Sam Darnold for a month and a half and to learn some of these professional things. I think that's going to hurt him. I don't think it's going to be a Mac Jones type of a bust, but I think it's going to be tough sailing. And I love Drake May, but he needs the work. McCarthy, on the other hand, is a pro's pro. He's a winner. He's ready to go. Everybody knows that, but he's attached to the best possible situation from a coaching standpoint, and we haven't even gotten to the weapons yet. So for me, McCarthy moves up. to QB2 in the class in Dynasty, and just 2 notches behind Caleb. And I think that lays from 2024 through Dynasty. Either way, I have a bigger gap between McCarthy and Daniels at QB3 than I do between Caleb and JJ 1 and 2.
Interesting. I'm going to actually take an opposite approach. I think that the landing spot for Drake May for fantasy is going to be interesting because the weapons are not there, but I do think that there's a chance that it could be like Buffalo Light, where they're going to use him around the goal line. He's going to have more rushing opportunities than maybe he would have if he would have landed with Minnesota. Minnesota with JJ McCarthy, there's really no reason for them to use his legs. I think that this is going to be more of a really, really good game manager that has elite weapons, sort of the production that we saw with Kirk Cousins, maybe a little bit more, certainly not as a rookie. But Drake May, New England, their talent on the offensive side of the ball is lacking, but they use 7 out of their 8 draft picks on offense. I think they're committed to this thing with Drake May. I think they're going to lean into it a little bit more. We saw them draft 2 wide receivers. We're going to talk about a little bit later in the show. Those are not guys kind of like if they would have just drafted Ladd McConkey and not moved around, I think people would have been a lot more excited about things. But I think that they're committed to this player. I think Drake May has it. I think he's got a cannon of an arm, and I think he's got mobility. It's a little bit more risk than JJ McCarthy. If I want to take a risk-averse approach with my rookie drafts, I'm going to take JJ McCarthy. But if I want to swing for the fences, I'm going Drake May, and I think that's the way that their careers are going to play out. Both will be successful quarterbacks, and Drake May will just be a little bit better for fantasy. But McCarthy's fine too. Let's go with the next one. And we'll do this 2-prong because I think we're both going to say the same guy to start out. So you can go short on your first answer, and then we'll go a little bit longer on the part 2. Xavier Worthy versus Ladd McConkey versus Keon Coleman versus Brian Thomas. If you had to pick one of these 4 to have the best rookie season and career, which way are you going?
Keon Coleman, hands down, to have the best rookie season because he's in the situation right now to garner the most targets. Worthy has the most upside and ability with Patty Mack, but like we talked about earlier, I just have a little hesitancy on the injuries. Their defense is really good now. The running game is there. I'm not sure what the output is needed from his stance to really compare to where I think Coleman can get to, where I think Coleman can be between 130 and 160 targets in this offense and be hyper dynamic after the catch and have double-digit touchdowns. So I'm going Coleman in 2024. In Dynasty, I'm going Coleman as well. I'm pretty much out on Brian Thomas. Ladd McConkey, I wish this guy was like 10, 15 pounds heavier. I wish he was a 195-pound receiver, not a 180-pound receiver, because he dealt with his own fair share of injuries. So because of injuries, I'm going to push Ladd and Worthy to the side. I'm just going to ride Coleman for both 2024 and the Dynasty.
That's really interesting because I expected you to go to Xavier Worthy. I love Keon Coleman. I think Keon Coleman for the career is a really, really fun one. I'm still going to go Xavier Worthy, though. I think that this could really work out well. It could be sort of be a perfect storm where Xavier Worthy, we do see Rashee Rice miss some time, and we see Xavier Worthy sort of having a Tank Dell-like rookie season in terms of like 15 points per game, a lot of boom weeks. The one concern I have with Keon Coleman being like really turbocharged out the gate is they're going to play him at the X. They're not going to move him around. I think that could hurt him a little bit. I think that ideally it would be try to find those like situations, move him around. I mean, Florida State used him in different ways than that. So I love Keon Coleman. I love your conviction on that one. I think he's a great pick in your rookie drafts. But I'm going to go Xavier Worthy on that answer. But draft yourself some Keon Coleman because Keon Coleman, Cody, is the cheapest of these 4 and he's still going in the first round in a lot of these Dynasty rookie drafts, but he seems to be going behind Thomas Jr., behind Ladd McConkey. I think Coleman is a great, great value right now. All right, let's keep this going. Ricky Pearsall and Xavier Legette. These are the 2 older wide receivers, 2 big-time athletes, 2 players that played in the SEC. They both go in the NFL first round, and now they're sort of sitting there for people. There's not sort of a a hive for either rookie drafts or best ball right now. Which player is going to have the better 2024, and which player is going to have the better career?
As it stands right now, with the receiving talent that's in San Francisco, with Ayuk and Debo still being there, I can't with a good conscience pick Ricky Pearsall, but I think the minute one of those two leaves, I think this does sway back into Ricky's arms. So I'm going to go with Xavier Legette right now, even though I have major hesitancy with Xavier Legette. I watched that pro day. I was there in person. I've watched him throughout the process of multiple events. He struggles sometimes to separate. That fifth-year breakout scares me. The speed is there. But the important things I think at the NFL, which is the top of route separation, the downfield play recognition and awareness, are things that I think he struggles with right now, and I'm not sure how that translates to this Carolina offense. They said they didn't look at him as an alpha, which I think was odd because it's literally how he's built. Mingo, they of course took last year. Terrace Marshall the year before that. It's like they haven't learned their lesson yet. They brought in Deontay Johnson. I honestly don't like either one of these guys right now. And if I'm being honest with you, I have a different receiver in Carolina that I prefer, a different rookie receiver in Carolina that I prefer long-term than Xavier Legette. So I'm going to tell you, I'll take Ricky Pearsall in 2024, and I'm just going to do what Cody does best, cause chaos, shoehorn in. I'm going to take Jalen Coker in Carolina from Holy Cross over both of these guys in Dynasty.
Jalen Coker is in my best undrafted free agents article, and it's rare that you get a wide receiver that sort of makes that sort of a list. But yeah, he's really interesting. And this is a guy that was at the combine. It was not like some, guy that you never heard of. Like, this is a really good athlete. I have actually a little bit in some of these deeper dynasty formats. So I'm glad you said that. But Cody, it's a little bold. That's a lot to put on Jalen Coker. Let's have him make the roster first. How about that?
Hey, my man's not gonna have a problem. He was on the Shrine Bowl and he was stepping on folks, and he looked good. I know he went to Holy Cross, but when you look at this Carolina receiving core, brother, I'm just being honest, man. We talk about Xavier Legette, Jonathon Mingo, Terrace Marshall. That's three of them. My boy Mike Strawn is down there. Cam Sims. This is just a bunch of donks, if we're being honest with ourselves. And then you, of course, have 35-year-old Adam Thielen and 35-year-old Deontay. I'm just kidding. He's not 35, but Deontay Johnson, who's like the only real target on this football team. Like Coker, all he has to do is duck, dive, jive past Cam Sims, past Terrace Marshall, and he's going to be A-okay. And I'm not worried about him.
I love it. And I'll say that Carolina, they got my guy Jaden Sheridan too. They're signing all my favorite undrafted free agents. So very cool stuff down there. Keep this going. Jonathon Brooks, Trey Benson. Who has the better 2024? Who has the better career?
2024, I'm going to go Benson because I don't know if this Connor thing continues to hold up. Connor's been one that we've all been waiting for the floor to fall out on, and they've been also looking for this. Arizona has with bringing in Michael Carter last year, bringing in Imari DiMercado. You can keep on naming names if you want. Benson there is going to push Connor to a point where we'll see if he breaks. If he doesn't break, the opportunities are just going to get handed to Benson anyway because he's younger, faster, more explosive. So I think 2024 behooves to Benson, and then Dynasty goes to Brooks because, Sanders and Chuba are on the roster now. One of them, probably Sanders, isn't on the roster when the season begins. And then next year when the season begins, it's Brooks, and that's it. And they'll probably have somebody else in next year's draft, but Brooks will be the lead back in 25 and 26. So I'm going to go Brooks, Dynasty, Benson in 24.
Yeah, and I really wanted – I agree with you on 2024, Trey Benson, and I really wanted to say Benson for career as well. But I think that you kind of hit it on the head. Carolina's skill position players and Carolina's quarterback's limitations are sort of creating this perfect storm where this is going to be a Jonathon Brooks offense before it's said and done. You also have the fact that it's Dave Canales, who there was few head coaches that had like that sort of volume approach with their running back position as Canales did as offensive coordinator last year in Tampa. I think Jonathon Brooks is a better prospect than Rachaad White coming in. And this is a cleaner prospect too than Rachaad White coming in terms of just like can't miss type ability. Any running back can miss, but Jonathon Brooks, I think if he stays healthy, he's going to do very well playing under Dave Canales in Carolina. He can catch the football. He's got a 3-down skill set, and we have a head coach that's actually shown us that he's willing to give a running back 300 plus touches, which is extremely rare in today's NFL. Let's do one more sort of, actually I got two more. We go lightning on this one. Jatavian Sanders or Eric All, the two sort of, and I'll throw Theo Johnson in there too, if you want to throw another day 3 tight end into the mix. Best career, best 2024 of those three.
Yeah, the problem you just had here is you threw Theo Johnson into a conversation that I think he deserves to be in, which All I don't think deserves to be in this conversation, but I do think Theo does. Theo and Jatavian, I got Theo ahead of Benson from Washington. I like Theo Johnson a lot in this offense because there's going to be opportunities for him with Darren Waller's retirement to take over that role and do literally what Darren Waller's done in New York, which is nothing and some. And I think that's going to benefit Theo because he had a great Senior Bowl. He's had a great pre-draft process. I think long-term he can succeed here. Jatavian, so it's for Dynasty. I'll take Theo Johnson. For 2024, I'm going to go Jatavian just because he's coming from an offense in Texas that was high-powered, that was successful, and he's going to an offense in Carolina that's kind of stuck in the mud, and there's no real talent around him, if we're being honest with ourselves. He has his boy Brooks in the backfield, but at the receiver position, we just talked about it with Xavier Legette, Deontay Johnson, Adam Thielen. Thielen and Johnson are the only ones I respect right now in this offense. I think that'll be the same for Jatavian, and he'll be able to run rampant down the seam and break tackles and get the job done in 2024. But in Dynasty, I'm going to go Theo Johnson.
I think I'm going to go JT Sanders on both. I like the Theo Johnson conviction. Incredible athlete. Landed very, very well. Better than Daniel Bellinger right away, and sort of, not Darren Waller, but athletically can do some of the things Darren Waller can do. I mean, Johnson's an absolute unit at tight end. But I'll say JT Sanders landed really, really well. I think it's telling to me that Carolina had day 2 ends, and they have like basically the whole night to think about who they're going to go with. They take JT Sanders with the first pick in round 4. I think that's telling. We've seen a lot of round 4 tight ends do well in the NFL, and I think that JT Sanders could be the next one. I don't think he's special, but I think he could have consistent tight end 10, tight end 11, tight end 12 type seasons. He catches the ball well. All-time leader at Texas. I heard that on like an Orange Bloods podcast. All-time leader in receptions as a Texan Longhorn. That's pretty interesting stat. JT Sanders also did well as a young player. There was NFL competition around him, and he was still utilized. So JT Sanders, I think, is going to translate well. Really, really fun landing spot. Let's do real quick, pick one. Actually, you know what? I'll take one guy out because he's going to be in my must-draft rookies. Let's go Will Shipley or the riser Kamani Vidal.
Will Shipley.
Will Shipley. Okay, I'm on the Will Shipley as well. Don't go chasing waterfalls, is Cody Carpentier is trying to say to everybody here. Kamani Vidal is going to go extremely high. This is the one thing about chasing this 6th rounder. I mean, Cody, what's the highest you think you'll see him go in some of these rookie drafts? I think we'll see some
Too
second
high.
round Kamani. Yeah, I think
Too
we'll see some
high.
Kamani. So last time Cody was on, we gave you your must draft rookies, and now we actually have some context with it. We actually know where these players are going. So let's talk about our must draft rookies. And we're talking about at cost here. We could sit here saying, draft Marvin Harrison Jr. and Malik Neighbors when you get an opportunity to do so, but we're talking about at cost. So some of these players are going to be first rounders in your rookie drafts. Some are going to be later picks. Some of them are going to be higher in your best ball drafts. Some could be your 20th round dart throw. Let's talk about these guys. Let's start out with you. Let's give us your must draft rookie.
All right, we talked about him already, so I'm not going to talk too long. But Keon Coleman, receiver from Buffalo, currently going towards the end of the first round. I believe that's where he belongs. I've heard him go all the way up to 107. I've seen him fall all the way to 203. I'm good taking him anywhere in here. I talked about it earlier. I think he's going to be disgusting.
So you're going with your highest profile player on your list, and I'll go with my highest profile player on mine, and that's Brock Bowers. I think this is one of the best tight end prospects I've ever seen. And I think that people are so caught up in this landing spot that they're kind of not seeing the forest for the trees. It's a really talented player that went 13th overall. That's an extremely high pick for a tight end. You have that factor where people are scared about the immediate production. Then you have the people that are fearful because of what we saw happen with Kyle Pitts. This is not Kyle Pitts. I think Brock Bowers a year from now has a chance to be the Travis Kelce in the Las Vegas Raiders offense when Davante Adams moves on. Brock Bowers, anytime he's available to you in your rookie drafts, like I get taking a Dunze over him, but there's no other besides the big two wide receivers and maybe a Dunze. You're taking Brock Bowers over everybody else available in this draft class, and I'm taking him ahead of a Dunze in tight end premium formats, no doubt about it. Back to you.
I think you've been talking to Andrew Cooper too much. I think you've become a tight end snob, Theo, the last couple of years.
I love my Dunze. I'm not a tight end snob, but I am a
snob, Theo Gremminger.
I got lots of Laporta. And I'm still not scared to add some Bowers to my Laporta teams. That's Kincaid. How well I think he's going to do. I think you're going to be getting off the plane in Vegas a couple years from now. And you're going to look up. You're going to see some big banner with Brock Bowers in his Raiders uniform. And you're going to say, damn, hat tip to my guy Theo. Let's keep it going. Who you got next?
I'm going to go Roman Wilson. Roman Wilson is a better version of Deontay Johnson. He's going to Pittsburgh with this improved offensive line with with Russell Wilson. And he's going to be the de facto Tyler Lockett in this offense. George Pickens, of course, being the de facto DK Metcalf type of a situation. Roman Wilson's disgusting when it comes to route running. Second best in the class behind Ladd McConkey. Called out Quinyon Mitchell at the Senior Bowl this year. Called him out for one-on-ones and beat him with the one-handed catch. Roman's got the dog in him. Roman's ready to work, and Roman's going to win in 2024 and beyond in Pittsburgh, attached to Russell Wilson.
Last time we did this together, weeks and weeks ago, maybe over a month ago, Roman Wilson was one of my must draft rookies, and I've talked about him for weeks on shows as a must draft rookie. I'm really glad you have conviction on him. I love him as well. He definitely could have been one of mine, but that's one you picked in the pre-show. But I'm going to say Jermaine Burton. Jermaine Burton is a 2025 bet that could have big spike weeks that could help you out this year. This is a guy that if you're drafting Joe Burrow in Underdog Best Ball, FFPC Best Ball, or Dynasty Best Ball, I think Jermaine Burton's going to have some weeks this year that could help you. But I think the real key with Burton is his contingent upside. If T. Higgins goes elsewhere in 2025, they have essentially a high second round talent that they were able to draft in the third round because some NFL teams were scared off of Burton. But it wasn't like his off the field incidents were anything like crazy. You're talking about a guy that maybe didn't mesh well with coaching staffs, maybe had guy was in 6 schools in 8 years, but this is not a guy that has any criminal problems. This is not a guy that we're worried about in that regard. He just fell. But Cincinnati, you can recall Joe Mixon, Cody, when he was drafted, this was a guy that came in with a little bit of baggage, and look how he did in his career. I think Jermaine Burton, incredible landing spot, very good talent attached to a top-notch quarterback with an opportunity to take over a starting wide receiver role in 2025. I love getting Jermaine Burton in my rookie drafts this weekend.
I'm going to go Javon Baker next to New England. I had a lot of conviction on a couple of shows, and predominantly the post-NFL draft show on day 2 about Jalen Polk outperforming Adonai Mitchell by 40-plus targets. And that was, of course, pre-Javonte Baker being drafted there. I love Javonte Baker, and I'm going to be drafting him everywhere because this is my favorite prospect in the class for fantasy football is Javon Baker. He's a disgustingly clean route runner. He runs a 4.52, which isn't overly fast, but it's efficient for what he does. He can win downfield over 17 yards per reception in New England, attached to Drake May. He's going to be one of the guys that allows Drake May to grow in this offense, having a Adam Thielen type with Jalen Polk, and then also having a Rashi/Stephon Diggs type downfield. I'm looking forward to seeing Javon Baker be successful and almost be dominant in year 3, year 4 in this offense.
So I'm actually going to take his teammate, Jalen Polk. And, this is Cody. This was your guy. You got me all on Jalen Polk in the pre-draft process. And then we saw the Pete Schrager mock draft where he went 32 overall. And so it's sort of like, hey, somebody's going to take him early. But I think what's really telling about New England is they could have stayed put and taken Lad McConkey. They didn't. Keon Coleman, they could have maneuvered to get Keon Coleman. They didn't. And then you talk about Adonai Mitchell, who was one of the real winners of the Combine. They could have traded down a few spots and got Adonai Mitchell. They could have gotten Roman Wilson. There's all these wide receivers they passed up on. It's the first pick that they made in the Drake May era was getting Jalen Polk. I think they have a plan for him. He's got the size. He's got the hands. He's in an offense with no big target earner. And as their second-round pick, I think he has a little bit more of a foot in the door to an early opportunity. I think Baker, absolutely, by the end of the year, these could be their 2 starting wide receivers. But I think when it comes down to it, I think you're going to see Jalen Polk on day one. Talk about these out of nowhere production from rookie wide receivers early in their career. I think back to Terry McLaurin and his opportunity in Washington in sort of a open wide receiver room. I think you could see that this year with Jalen Polk. I think 125 targets is there for him and a starting role. Back to you.
All right, I'm going to go Jordan Whittington. Jordan Whittington, a wide receiver from Texas, a guy that people are like, wait, who? Who the hell are you talking about right here? Jordan Whittington from Texas, a 4-star prospect, 6'1", 205 pounds. He's going to come in there, and he's going to be the receiver number 3. He's going to beat out Demarcus Robinson because he's a guy that doesn't only dominate as a route runner and as a teammate. He dominates in the run game. He dominates on special teams. He's a hard blocker downfield. He stays committed. When you think about guys like Larry Fitzgerald and how their careers were kind of built. It was built on, yes, of course, he's a top 5 all-time in receiving yards, but it's built on being in there on every single snap, blocking your ass off, and earning more and more opportunities. Whittington started his career as a running back. He's now a receiver. Yes, he's been banged up a lot throughout his career, but I think when you look at him in the Rams offense, built almost, doppelganger-ish to Cooper Kupp and to Puka Nacua. He's not going to be anywhere near what these two guys have given us right now, but he's going to be a fantastic complement. Think about Robert Woods, maybe not quite that level, but think about in that realm where it's just like the sidekick that everyone forgets about in that offense. So I'm looking forward to seeing Jordan Whittington be successful and earn plenty of opportunities, and you're going to get him every single time in the 5th round. I have my draft win sheets, my rookie win sheets up at thedraftrankings.com, and I have Jordan Whittington as almost the last pick in the 4th round because that's where I want to take him. He's in the conversation with Jalen McMillan, Taj Washington, Jaquan Jackson, Brendan Rice. I'll take Jordan Whittington every single time. There's another guy in that tier that I kind of like too, but you got to come over to the draft rankings to get that guy. But Jordan Whittington right now from the Rams, I love that landing spot.
Yeah, and I'll say, people talk about the Puka Nacua selection, but Kyron Williams also a day 3 guy. The Rams lacked first-round picks for so many years that they got really, really good at evaluating these later in the draft guys. And what's cool is you see like the Coach Speak Index. I think that's a really good Twitter follow this time of year. Yep. Plus, like Scott Barrett, I know he watches every single press conference. And these guys will watch every single press conference to get these little nuggets. Like Sean McVay was asked a question about Blake Corum. I watched this one, and he ends up talking for like 3 minutes about Whittington, about like just gushing over his addition to the team. I love that kind of stuff. So, hey, man, maybe this is going to be the long time like Robin to Puka Nacua's Batman, and they just did it on day 3. And, talk about NFL competition. Jordan Whittington played next to Xavier Worthy, Adonai Mitchell, Jatavian Sanders, Jonathon Brooks, and Cody's still talking about him, which means he can play a little bit. So I'm going to go with Marshawn Lloyd. This is a guy that I've talked about for weeks now, and I think suddenly we get a little bit of a discount because he was drafted by Green Bay. But he goes on day 2 like we wanted, and he lands in one of the NFL's better offenses. Marshawn Lloyd can do some of the Aaron Jones things athletically. I think he is a handcuff plus in year 1. Then you have the factor that Josh Jacobs, who's a guy that I think is going to produce this year, but he's taken on a ton of volume over the past few years. He's on a new team, and the way that his contract is structured, you could see Marshawn Lloyd taking over in 2025. So I think a little bit like the Jermaine Burton play, this is something where you're going to have flashes as a rookie, and then maybe a big step forward in 2025. But I think with Lloyd, you also get the fact that he's immediately one of the best handcuffs in the NFL based on this landing spot and his profile. So I'll go Marshawn Lloyd. I am comfortable taking him in the middle of the second round.
I'm going to go Audric Estime, running back from Denver. Talked about him a minute ago with the Javonte Williams situation. For me, he comes in at running back 4. I'll take him at the 2-3 turn. It may seem hot, but in this class, it falls out quickly past the top 3 guys. And I'm going to take my bets on Estime coming in here, working with Javonte Williams. And I don't want it. It depends on the draft, right? If I have only one pick and my only pick is at 208 and Estime is the best player available on my board, I'm not going to take him. I'm going to probably go a different direction if I don't need a running back, because the volatility with this position, with the situation with Javonte still being there and everybody past that, Will Shipley with Saquon, Tyron Tracy with Devin, blah, 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 right? I'll go somewhere else. But if I have the ability to have 4 picks in the top 2 rounds and I have a need for depth, if I have some donkey sitting there like Alexander Madison on my bench, and I would rather have an upgrade in Audric Estime, 20-year-old with upside, I'll take it every single time. So I love Audric Estime in this just wonky class of running back landing spots, a wonky class of running back talents.
So for me, I wanted to say I wanted to talk about Benson, but Cody thinks I'm a tight end snob, so I'm not going to even talk about him in this. I'm going to pivot to Tyrone Tracy, which is sort of my late pick in rookie drafts would be Tyrone Tracy. And I actually think he's worth a couple of 20th rounders in best ball, because Devin Singletary is his only impediment to getting on the field. He could also work out sort of a weekly role because of the lack of explosiveness at the wide receiver position. Tracy's different because this guy is older, and this is a guy that played wide receiver for so long. But I think at the end of the day, if Devin Singletary misses time and Tyrone Tracy gets on the field, I think he's going to be an immediate contributor in fantasy. Athletically gifted. Again, I like the age in this situation because he's a grown man stepping in like, unlike Estime. Estime's 20. I love Estime, but sometimes that can be a little bit of an impediment. Tracy's ready to go. Terrible draft capital based on his profile, but we love the landing spot. Only Devin Singletary. Give me some Tyrone Tracy.
That's one of my favorite players in the entire class is Tyrone Tracy, formerly of Iowa, now at Purdue. I'm going to go tight end here because you're too chicken to do it. I love Jared Wiley from Kansas City. I love him, but I think everybody knows that's a sleeping spot behind Travis Kelce, so I don't need to say anything. I'm going to go deeper. I'm going to go maniacal because that's what we do best. Undrafted Brevin Spanford from Minnesota, 6'7", 260 pounds. He's got the long levers. He's got a 76th percentile speed score. He doesn't have any agility testing done, so we're not sure that's the most translatable stat for tight end success in the NFL and in fantasy football. So we don't have that, but we do have is at Minnesota Brevin Spanford in a Minnesota offense that did not throw the ball a lot. Had 500 yards 2 years ago, had 300 yards this past year, a couple touchdowns each. This is a guy that I think going to Dallas, make the roster in year 1. Jake Ferguson, his contract is up after the 2025 season. Spanford can walk in deeper. This is going to be a taxi maniacal pick right here. Back in, I think it was, 2017, 2018, I was in this just disgusting league. 53-man rosters, 12-team league. I took Dalton Schultz in the 9th round and just put him on the taxi squad for 2 years. And it made me a lot of bread. And I'm going to do it right here with Brevin Spanford. I'm going to take him in the 5th, put him on the taxi squad, and I'm going to make a lot of sourdough bread.
Well, Cody, you just joined a Dynasty League that I'm in. Shout out to our friend Curtis Patrick of RotoViz, runs the Black Crown League with like a lot of industry guys. And Cody just joined that league. I was in it last year for the first time. And I hope you take a little Spanford in that league. You could take him in like the 3rd round. Make sure you get him. Take him in the 3rd round, Cody. And I'll say this. I was going to – Cody now thinks I'm too shook to say tight ends, but I was going to say Bensonot. I'm just going to go Bensonot. Bensonot. That's my guy. I have him in Superflex tight end premium rankings right now. I have him 17 overall. I think he's going to cook. I think this is the next Washington tight end you want. Talking about Jordan Reed, Chris Cooley, Bensonot's the next one. And I'll give a bonus, Jalen Wright, just because Jalen Wright, if he's got two contingent upside plays in year one. Devon Achane misses time, he's on the field. If Raheem Mostert misses time, he's on the field, and he's good enough that he could carve out a couple of touches a week, even if both those guys are playing. Jalen Wright, it's sort of like the Xavier Worthy argument. You have to have a little bit of Jalen Wright in your portfolio for the what if. So, Cody, this was amazing. Let everybody know where they can find your work. You're everywhere right now. Let everybody know kind of like what what's laying out for you in May.
Come on, hang over at the draftrankings.com, thedraftrankings.com. You can find that on YouTube as well. We do a podcast 3 times a week, and the site's cooking. It's Patreon so far right now, but we're working on getting the site all fired up. You can get Dynasty rankings, rookie rankings, cornerstone rankings, everything over there, as well as advanced content and team building help. We do one-on-one meetings with people to help you build your roster and get through drafts and stuff like that. It's myself, Maddie, and Seth has joined the team. That's the draftrankings.com, and then you can find everything else over at RosterWatch.
I love it. Very cool. I think the draft rankings a year from now is going to be huge when we head into the 2025 draft. Get ahead of your league mates and check out what Cody and Maddie are doing over there. Big shout out to Seth Dywald, another really sharp guy when it comes to evaluating talent. Very, very cool stuff. Look for Cody and I maybe to be doing more podcasting together in the near future. We might be cooking.
People love it, Theo.
People love it. They need more. They said, I need a little more Cody. I need you to take it to that next tier with Cody Carpentier. and get ready to crush your rookie drafts this weekend. You put so much time in with us in Player Profiler. Get ready to crush your early best ball drafts. This is the time to win some titles. This is the time to execute. Stick with us here at Press Coverage. We'll be back soon.
Hey, I want to thank you for being part of this broadcast. If you have any thoughts on it, leave a comment. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like. And if you want to see more shows on the Player Profiler channel, subscribe to it. That's how we know you want more.